I had it all: a loving wife, a thriving ministry as a pastor, and enough money to get by. But everything changed when my dear friend and brother in Christ, Brother John, returned from a mysterious place in Western Africa with incredible powers. Brother John and I had been close friends and prayer partners for years. We had prayed together through the highs and lows of our ministries, seeking God's guidance and wisdom. We had fasted together, seeking breakthroughs for our congregations. He kept telling me that I should come with him to Western Africa, where he had received his powers. He said it would change my life forever. At first, I was hesitant, but his persistence and the evident change in him made me consider it. We then agreed on a day to leave together. The day arrived and Brother John arrived at my doorstep, a broad smile on his face. "It's time," he said. "Our flight is waiting." I grabbed my bag, and we headed to the airport together. As we flew across the continent, Brother John's excitement grew. I couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation myself. When we landed, a sleek black car was waiting for us at the airport. The driver nodded silently, and we hopped in. Brother John seemed to know exactly where we were going. The car wound through the crowded streets, eventually stopping at a grand house on the outskirts of town. The sound of chanting and singing filled the air, in languages I didn't recognize. As we entered the house, everyone was wearing black. The air was thick with an otherworldly energy. I felt a surge of power course through my veins, and before I knew it, I was chanting along with the others. The room seemed to darken, and I saw something like blood dripping from the ceiling, as if it was raining blood, and I saw myself making love to an old woman. I was entranced, lost in the moment. I don't remember what happened next, but suddenly I was back at the airport, standing beside Brother John. He was beaming with excitement. "You have seen God and feasted with him," he said, his voice low and mysterious. "Your life will never be the same." I nodded, still dazed. Something had shifted inside me, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. When I got home, everything seemed perfect. My wife was happy, and I started performing miracles. The church grew exponentially. In just 2 months, it was double the size it was before. I was on top of the world. But then tragedy struck. My wife was diagnosed with a deadly cancer, and I was devastated. Brother John called me, his voice firm and serious. "You need to sleep with an elderly woman," he said. "It's the only way to save your wife." "You're crazy, Brother John," I replied, and I hung up the call. But my wife's condition worsened, and she passed away just 3 months after the diagnosis. I was consumed by grief. Few weeks later, Brother John called me again. "You need to sleep with an elderly woman to stay alive," he said. "The taking won't stop. You've seen what happened to your wife. Don't let it happen to you." I was still reeling from my loss, but his words struck fear in my heart. I didn't know what to do, but I knew I couldn't lose everything I had worked for. So I agreed to do it, and that's when the nightmares started. Every week, I would sleep with an elderly woman to renew the powers, but the visions persisted. I saw members of the church standing in the room while blood dripped from the ceiling, and a few days later they would pass away. It's become a grim routine. Then I was told that I had to remarry. I was chosen a wife. Everything came in a dream. I didn't question it, I just followed the instructions. She never complains. It's like she understands the assignment. We got married, and I continued with the weekly rituals, sleeping with elderly women to keep my powers alive. My new wife never asks questions. She just accepts everything. It's like she knows the truth, but chooses to ignore it. I'm trapped in this cycle, and I don't know how to escape. The church is thriving, but at what cost? I see the pain, the suffering, the lives cut short. It's hard to keep going, but what choice do I have? This is the only thing I know how to do. I've dedicated my life to the ministry, and I can't just walk away now. But the weight of it all is crushing me. I'm living a nightmare, and I don't know how to wake up.